got everybody back in the room. I didn't dare do the second round because I thought I'm not going to be here myself. So I'm Rachel, and I'm going to talk tonight a little bit about mindfulness. And it's worth me saying that, 10 years ago, mindfulness for me was definitely a dirty word. So a little bit about me. I'm the wrong side of my 40s. I was talking to Marius about the age line up here, and he was like, "Yeah, you are, right?" I won't take that offence. 25 years working across various different consultancies, so doing lots of different turnaround work. And I've built and sold a couple of different businesses. And currently building a third at the minute. And my kind of DNA really is that of quite maverick and quite disruptive. And that was very tricky for a lot of the businesses that I went into, because a lot of the time they want you to be disruptive for fucking half an hour on a Tuesday. And it's like, it doesn't really work like that. And that really was a challenge for me and for them, to be honest. And I, despite the Wim Hof breathing tonight, I actually have a boatload of energy. This is about the worst time for me to be doing any public speaking, however. I'll be along for the breakfast session next time. So a little bit about kind of being me. And when Ravi was talking earlier, a lot of, what he was talking about really resonated. So this isn't an ego statement, but I own the fact, I've been pretty successful from a business perspective, ridiculously driven and ambitious. And that's very much just part of my kind of DNA, really. But the flip side to that is I couldn't switch off. So I had a complete fucking inability to switch off. And I have a very addictive personality. I'll talk about that more in a minute. And that stress was a huge part of my journey as well. And I think I buried my head in the sand while I was in that period. And it was like, I'm succeeding, whatever the cost, whatever the price. And there was definitely a big price to pay for that. And how that kind of stress really manifested itself was through illness, sickness, way more than I should have had. I mean, I'm the reality, me in my 20s, I was a big fucking caver. I loved the party. And so, to a certain extent, I wasn't doing myself a lot of favors. But that stress was huge in way of that, how that process kind of manifested. And my mental health was probably dubious at best at various points. And I'm going to talk a bit more about that when I get my slides the right way. So this is my literal attempt at mindfulness 10 years ago. And it couldn't have been any further from being comfortable if I tried very hard. Christ, it's hot now. And how this kind of manifested itself. So I went on a mindfulness program and I thought to myself, go and try and learn the basics. And unfortunately, there was half a dozen other people in this program, and I was so fucking disruptive, it was unbelievable. So even the first time they're asking us to lay down and sort of close your eyes and start to meditate, I was like tickling somebody's foot. I mean, how the instructor didn't say, get out, you're an absolute liability, I'll never know. But it was pretty obvious that I knew I needed something, but I just couldn't get me to get anywhere near it. And over the last 10 years, I've done a lot of work on me from a kind of inward journey perspective. And I'm very open about the fact I've probably had more therapy than most, probably needed it as well, and continue to. And I'm very open about that fact. And I've had a lot of kind of mentoring from both a personal and professional perspective. So if I have identified something in me that I want to work on, whether a positive or a negative, I've often gone ahead and done a lot of mentoring in that space. And I'm 9.5 years sober from a kind of 12-step perspective. And something I did check with Marius that I could talk about was psychedelics. And I'm just going to touch on this very briefly, mainly because I want to do a longer talk about it next year. But the whole psychedelics bit for me, it wasn't about, taking magic mushrooms at a rave. I mean, it was in my 20s, but this this was slightly different. And this was about a real inner journey. And, this is about kind of meeting yourself. And the point I'm trying to make here is the last 10 years, I have really kind of embraced understanding me and accepting me. And I had no comprehension of kind of who I was. And I think, that desire to, succeed, prove, win, kind of overtook a lot of stuff with me, but it did come at a massive price. And I think finding some balance through the use of things like mindfulness, for me personally, has been absolutely huge. So what my journey over the last 10 years has started to look like. Self-care kind of means so many different things to all of us. And when I ever talk to my mother, she's like, Rachel, I've never known anyone do as much fucking self-care as you. And it's like, okay, just because you have no ability to sort of calm down at all. But self-care could be a trip to the spa. Self-care could be, I'm having a bath, I'm putting a candle on, can be going out for a walk, can be loads of different things. But the thing was, for me, I had no ability for it to be any of those things. And then I went and did the happiness program. Has anybody heard of the happiness program? Oh, right. Okay, it's good. Obviously, they need to market slightly better. So the happiness program it's about understanding when you're going to be happy. And the reality is within our gift to make that conscious choice and show up in that way. Totally ruined the program, not what's going on now. But for me, I actually went through this program a couple of times because I really wanted to get that into my head, that it was within kind of my control. And this isn't about skipping down the street like a maniac, thinking that you are ludicrously happy every minute of every day. But it is just about understanding yourself well enough to see, the kind of the positive aspects and things. And the other bit that I went and did was I did some yoga nidra. Yoga nidra, just for clarity, is the one where you pretty much just sleep. So don't be thinking that it's anything kind of hardcore. I did actually go on and do some kundalini, but this yoga nidra was like 4 days just sleeping. It was incredible. I would highly recommend it. And what my routine kind of looks like now is distinctly different. And I was asked the question the other day, what would 18-year-old you think of you? I thought, oh my God, I don't know about that. Probably would have kicked off at me. Anyway, the point really is that I've started to introduce a lot of these concepts. And, I like to test these things to see, are they actually going to give me a benefit? And for me, I use a lot of these tools and techniques to increase my energy, to maximize the backside out of a day. That's how I operate. But what I started doing, to Ravi's point, I started the Wim Hof probably 2 or 3 years ago, and I do it every day. That's why I didn't dare do the second round. I thought I was going to be completely off my head. And I do it because, I'm chronically asthmatic. So for me, from a kind of physical perspective, it's really strengthened, my kind of chest, the ability to hold your breath, because as you go through more and more rounds, you realise that you do actually end up holding your breath for a reasonable period of time. But I have seen massive benefits in the Wim Hof, and then I started meditating probably a couple of years ago now, and I'll make the point, I do probably 3 or 4 of these every day, and for me, meditation isn't, let's try and have a lay down for 45 minutes. It is about taking a couple of minutes here and there, and kind of whether it's visualization or it's lighting a candle, whatever it is for you, and try lots of different ones, because, there's kind of certain self-care things I've done that I've really disliked. Like I went and did a sound bath once, and I thought, that is like someone's nails down a chalk. It's like not relaxing. It's my worst nightmare. So a lot of this is kind of trial and error. But the things that I've listed here, these are not expensive, paid for apps or services. These are things that you can literally, hit YouTube and give them a go tomorrow. And the gratitude list is a really powerful one for me. So this is something that for me personally comes from being in a 12-step program. But the gratitude list, you don't need to be in a 12-step program. I'll make that point first of all. The gratitude list is as it sounds. So it is literally 10 things when you wake up in the morning that you're grateful for. And it's not about necessarily thinking about hugely grand, am I grateful I've won the lottery? It's not about that. It's about putting a bit of perspective around some of these things, and it's had a decent night's sleep. Do you know what I mean? Had a good coffee, caught up with friends. But what it allows you to do is to start to nudge your brain into the right frame of mind at the start of the day. I don't tend to wake up and leap out of bed and be absolutely joyous. But these sort of moves, they're all positive in that direction. Journaling is something I started probably early this year, possibly last year. And the first time I ever did it, and for those that aren't aware, it is literally pen and paper, but you don't take, you set a timer, you don't take the pen off the page, you write for a 2 or a 3 minute period, 5 minute period, but solidly. And it's about getting out of you what is kind of buried inside. And the first time I did it, it felt like I was in a bloody seance. I was thinking, am I possessed? What is all of this stuff? But it was just very deeply kind of buried. It was ranty. My writing's awful. I couldn't even read it back. But it's a great process for kind of unlocking some of that feeling that sits in you that we don't necessarily tap into all the time. And then something I actually found on Twitter a few years ago is journaling. It's a monthly review. And this is about looking at kind of wins from a personal perspective, business. It's about how you enjoy spending your time. It's about what really matters to you, what's gone well in that month. It probably takes 40 minutes to do once a month, but it becomes a letter to yourself, because you then read it back and you're like, that stuff, that's not where I get my energy, or that doesn't give me peace of mind. So I'm going to try to minimize the amount of time. I mean, if work's in that category, you've got a problem getting a job. But the reality is it gives you the ability to look at how you're spending your time, with whom, and start to make some decisions around that as well. So for me, being mindful is absolutely a superpower. So it enables me to kind of show up as the best version of me with the maximum amount of energy. And I like to have a lot of energy, so it's very helpful. So my kind of takeaway really is of these, see if I can go the right way, yes, of these things that I've listed here, and Ravi's done a great kind of demonstration today around the Wim Hof, but just try and adopt one or two of them, give them a try. Something is going to resonate, and track it and see, does it give you, anything positive back? Because for me, I've kind of seen over the last 10 years, not just from a personal success standpoint, but from a personal acceptance of who I am standpoint. I'm the happiest I've ever been by a mile, and I understand me. And for those in the room that know anything about addiction, you are running away from yourself. So it goes kind of full circle. And I think that's about it. And we're moving to QA. Thank you.